first time I'm in the company of lots of really, really clever people. So I'm feeling very clever today. Okay, so a little bit about me. And because I'm a project manager by heart, I'm going to tell my story in the form of a Gantt chart, because that's what you're here to hear. So this is my timeline. You can see I started in the last century. The last time I coded was at university, Fortran, Pascal, assembly, Prolog, anybody? So a really long time ago. I'll give you a little story about how I got started in computer science. I wanted to get onto the Starship Enterprise, and my dad said that he couldn't afford to let me do aerospace engineering. So I said, that's okay. I'll program the robots on this ship. As it turns out, I'm really rubbish at programming. So that was that. But I found out that I was pretty good at infrastructure. And so I was a Microsoft Systems certified systems engineer in Malaysia in '95. Did Microsoft Exchange and everything. And then Microsoft Dynamics came out. And I jumped onto that as well. I was also a SQL DBA. And then, so you can see all the orange bits with Microsoft consulting partners, like IBM and a few that you've never heard that got bought over after that. So, small stint to do my MBA. And I checked out Remedy, which is like a service cloud kind of partner. Didn't like them, came back to Microsoft. And then I contracted with Croydon Council as the program manager. Actually, I took over, so don't blame me. The business case was already done for integrating the contact center to all the other backend systems they had. Housing register, PCN, library, all of that. Super fun. Anyway, after that, I decided I have wanted to learn all I wanted to learn in the Microsoft world. Checked out the competition, so I came across, and I joined Salesforce Partners, Make Positive, so Jasmine was an ex-colleague, and so that's kind of where I stayed. And then in 2020, around COVID time, I started my business, Zenhow Academy, and what I do is I train consultants for partners, because that was a gap in the market, so I could see Trailhead, I could see a lot of training companies that would train you on the product, but none on the soft skill of delivery, of discovery, of business analysis, of writing strong requirements, and leadership. And so I decided I would do that, because no one else did that. So broadly, about 30 years of project delivery from the consulting side. So that's the world that I know. The first part, client-facing, configurator, business analyst, tester, trainer, all of that. And then for the second part, I decided I just preferred to boss people around. And also, I think I had my experience of project managers who weren't very good. And I thought, well, I think I'd like to be one. The other thing that's very central to my identity that I share with everyone, I'm not shy, is that the last 16 years I've been a Samaritan's volunteer. So every week I do a shift. It's a crisis phone line. And I listen to people who are feeling suicidal. So one of the things that I found out was you can kind of like draw a dotted line here. When I started doing this, all my projects started to get really boring. When I say boring, I mean less drama. It was more fun. Everybody was more focused on the technical and the business challenges and not the human challenges of conflict, of mismanaged expectations, of not to say that I didn't get those, I did, but they were much less, much, much less. So I would get a lot of the red projects from other people to kind of like pull up from the going down zone. So broadly, this is me. And I just want to add this too. So I just wrote these 2 books. This one, thank you. This one in 2023, because I felt the biggest impact I could make in the ecosystem was to help people do discovery better. Because if you can do discovery better, then it's more fun. The project's more fun because you're focusing on technology, on building sexy things, and not fighting with your users about what changes and what a defect is. And no, it's not. You just didn't listen properly. Those sort of arguments, right? And then this one I did last year because I thought I needed to write something from the client's point of view to help them set them up for success. set them up for success and for a successful relationship with a partner to help roll out what they needed. Right, so this is actually what you're here to listen, all right?
You forgot to mention what group you co-host.
Oh, yes. I co-host the Business Analyst Virtual Trailhead Community Group. Thank you. So it's virtual. So every month it alternates between US time zone and the UK time zone because I co-hosted with Vanessa Grant, and she's out in the States. So come and join us. We talk about really interesting stuff. Okay, back to this. Thank you very much. There are different project manager personas, and I am pretty sure you will have met one or more of these personas, maybe all in the same person. So let me share with you some of the things that might help. So first one is the panicky one. Oh my God, everything's broken. Why aren't you doing your user story faster? Defects everywhere. Okay, so I think we have seen some of these project managers. I've met them. I think in the beginning I was one of them as well, right? So what we need to understand is that behavior is driven by a fear of failure. I really need to avoid a negative outcome, so it expresses itself this way. What can we do about it? If you are working, you're a dev working for a project manager like this, and oh, that PM is just like driving me out of my brains, you know, she's so panicky. You need to understand that they need stability. It's a bit like a toddler. If you're a parent and you have toddlers, you know, Mom, I left you. It is the wrong size, or it's the wrong side, something like that, right? So they just really fear, right? So you need to understand they need stability. So your strategy, okay, is you provide data to them, and you suggest small steps. Okay, right, it looks like there's a lot of defects that's being put out during UAT. Let's have a look. Let's triage this, Mr. Project Manager. So I know it's the project manager's job to be doing that, to be doing the triaging, to be the voice of calm when everything is going to pot. But not everyone is like that. And we all have our own different triggers. So if you encounter a project manager like this, so you need to help them. Create small steps and provide contingencies. What's the worst that can happen with all these defects that's been reported by the client, all these JIRA tickets? What's the worst that can happen? The project gone longer. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Is anyone going to die? Right, this is the other thing. No project is so important that requires you to think about, oh my God, if I'm not at work, if I don't fix this thing, if I don't deploy this thing, someone's going to die. I seriously don't think so. The only last time that this was true was during COVID time, when that was actually true. But beyond that, unless you're working for, kind of like medical field, that sort of thing, it's unlikely to happen. So just keeping that in mind, and you need to kind of like remind this project manager as well. No one's going to die. Let's take this slow. And then you have the micromanaging one. Who knows a micromanaging boss? Right? I think a lot of us know the one who stands over your shoulder and say, how are you doing with your user story? The same as I was doing 10 minutes ago when you asked, right? How about doing it this way? How about doing it that way? Right? So we know a lot of these kind of project managers. So what's the behavior being driven by? Again, a fear of failure. They don't want to look bad, and they don't trust you to make them look good. That's the essence of it. They don't trust you to be competent as you say you are, especially if you are new or if they are new. Sometimes what they need is for someone to understand. Why doesn't anyone understand how important this project is? Does anyone do the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs thing? right? So the last, I'm not an expert, but the last letter has to do with, are you the kind of person who does things and not wait to the last minute, or are you the last minute kind of person, right? So I'm the first kind, right? When I did my MBA, my thesis was done in the first half of the time, and the last half was finessing it. And a lot of my classmates were doing it all in the last 2 days. And I couldn't figure out, why would you stress like that? So I'm the first kind of person. If I have someone in the team with the second kind of person, it drives me crazy, right? So I'm be thinking, you should be starting earlier. So my boys are doing GCSEs, and I'm doing that. They're like, why are you not, it's like 3 months. We got plenty of time. No, you don't, okay? So that I'm micromanaging them, right? So what you have to understand is empathize. It comes from anxiety. I feel that, okay? Why aren't you studying? You're playing games. And he goes like, Mom, I'll be fine. Okay, but they're using the strategy on me, right? They're sharing detailed updates. And the detailed updates, Mom, today I did 2 pages of chemistry. I did this and this and this. I did this. Now I deserve 2 hours of game time. And I'm thinking, okay. And then the next day, Mom, we had a test and I got 85%. Now I need 3 hours game time. I said, 2 hours. Okay. So anyway, you can see what I mean, all right? So they are over-communicating. They are handling my anxiety. This is how you need to handle your project manager's anxiety. Over-communicate all the time so that they know that you're doing what you're supposed to do. So for example, if you have a user story that's going to take you like 3 days to do, give them regular updates. I just finished 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. I have used up 50% of the time. That means I am behind, right? So you need to over-communicate even if you're behind, not just when you're doing well. That gives them more comfort. That's what you need to do. You need to give them comfort. And you need to, yes?
Can I ask, what if you overshare but then they turn into a panicky one?
Say that again?
So you over-communicate, but then all of a sudden they panic.
What you need to do also is to give them a plan of action, right? So I'm behind. I need you to tell the customer, or I need you to give me some extra support. Because what would make them more anxious if they don't know and you hit them at the last minute? That's what I tell my team, is that you need to give me lots of updates so that I can help prepare for failure if that's ever going to happen. If you tell me the last minute, I don't have time to plan anything. So then I get grumpy. And then you don't like me when I'm grumpy. All right? And we all know these type as well. Okay, who has bosses, managers like that, right? They always say yes to the customer, to the stakeholders. What? Are you saying you want me to work on a weekend to deliver this thing that you promised the customer on Monday? Understand again their behavior, what's driving them. They just want to make everyone happy and avoid conflict. It's a big thing. Avoiding conflict. People don't like that because they don't know how to handle it. And a lot of us, at our core, likes to be liked. We don't like anyone to be upset with us. We don't like to say no. We want to please others. This is like basic human. Oh my goodness, what's my thing doing? Okay. And also they are unable to set boundaries. Yes?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
My experience, I would say, with the people-pleasing ones is they don't want to keep everyone happy. They want to keep the customer happy, but they don't really care about their own team. If they're unhappy, as long as the customer's happy, that's what's important.
That's right, because conflict with their team isn't... So there's a deeper layer of level. There's also power dynamics, right? So with a customer, with your boss, the power dynamics different. They are more powerful than you. Generally, people don't care so much about those that they have power over, if you think about it. Because the person who is going to be unhappy with them can change their status at any time by reporting to their boss, by giving them, poor feedback. If they get poor feedback from their team, it's unlikely to impact them so much. So that's just another layer to understand. So what do you do about it? So I go back to empathy, right? Understand this is all of us in some facet or another. Okay, we do want to make people we care about happy.
It's a security policy, unfortunately, I can't change it.
Okay, so again, I know this is what they're supposed to do, but if you have the misfortune of having to be the adult in the relationship and you can't change them or you can't leave, then you have to manage them, right? Help them set and communicate boundaries, help them prioritize tasks, and support them in saying no diplomatically. Again, I understand this is really not your job. I tell everyone this is my job. When I go into discoveries, into meetings, I have to have this conversation, not you. All of you have your job to do. What you're great at, all the coding stuff, right? Leave all the messiness to project manager. However, again, I understand that not everyone can do that. So you're going to have to help them do it. And this is a tough one. Surely you can do more with less. What do you mean you can't absorb this other chunk of user stories and you need more time? Surely you do not need to sleep. We have a lot of those people, right? Now, just a small tip for me to handle this sort of conversations. When I do project kickoff with my clients, I will already talk about the project, the iron triangle, the relationship between scope, budget, timeline, and if you try and squeeze it, what you're squeezing is quality. So we don't squeeze, right? This cannot be moved. Something will give, and someone will have to pay. If you're not paying it by money, you're paying it through morale, through stress, through mental health issues. So I will always bring this out and kick off already with the customer. So when the customer tries to add more stuff, increase the scope, I'll pull this out again. Right, do you want to pay more? Do you want it to be longer? What do you want? There is no, yes, we can do it over the weekend. But if you have a PM like that, again, it all ties together, right? With the wanting to please everyone and don't want conflict. And inability to set boundaries. Empathize again, right? They want to look good. Again, if I take all of this back to us as human beings, all of us want to know that we have value. That's like the most basic one that I believe, right? It's a little bit more than Maslow's hierarchy, because you can have money, you can have everything, but if you don't think that you matter, everything goes to pot. So just remember that, right? People's behavior is being driven by this. They want to know they matter by, oh, look, this impossible task, we did it in like 2 weeks and one person, something like that. Oh, look, I'm so great. And you can say it's ego. A lot of times it is ego. But again, when you look behind it, it's because they don't think that they're enough. That's it. So when I think that way, instead of like reflecting and being mean back to that person, I just like feel a bit sad that the person has to be like that, right? So you got to do the grown-up stuff. Help them set the scope. Help them get sign-off. Help put formal change control process. Again, this is my job as a project manager, but if you have one who doesn't think that's their job, you need to help them. Because you know what? If you don't help them, you're the one who suffers. Sadly, you're the one who suffers because no one's going to come to your rescue. You've got a PM who doesn't look after you. Who's going to look after you? I got to look after me. I got to look after the grown-up. Help them prioritize new requests based on, goals, timelines, and resources. Again, the triangle. If they try and squeeze it, it gets, it just hits QA, quality. And then the wing and the prayer. Again, I think we know a lot of those. I think almost every project managers are like this. And when I hear things like Brexit project, like the HS2, I live in the area where they're doing the high-speed rail, and I'm reading all the stuff from the project managers and the people, I'm thinking, you are crazy. It's not ever going to be on time, on budget, or work. But they still believe that. There you go. Again, can you see a theme here with all the behaviors, right? they want more because they want to look good, because they don't feel confident or enough. At the most, you know, if you peel back all the layers, that is it, right? Oh, sorry. And all right, so the strategy is you might have somebody who's so risk-taking, who wants to do more, right? So you have to help them balance all the actions with steady progress, right? And just a careful, don't run too fast, right? Risk assessment is a big thing. So, and before you do anything big, make sure that there's a risk assessment. Okay, I know I'm going to say something that might be blasphemous to everybody, but in the waterfall world, we had pretty robust risk assessment, which I don't see being done properly in the agile world. Because everyone thinks, oh, if we mess up now, we can fix it next sprint. We can fix it next sprint. There, you know, it seems to be that way. And then every time I try and introduce a little bit more robust risk management, let's review how is this change going to impact everything else. So unless you're in a really big company where you've got change boards and proper risk management, a lot of projects, especially by consulting companies, customers don't want to pay for risk management, sorry. I work with Dijon as well, so I know, right? But this is something you have to help your PM do if you see them doing crazy things or saying yes to crazy things. So, coming up to time. The key here is empathy across everything else, okay? So understand why people do what they do. And then design a strategy. Most of all, it's like seeing them as somebody who is out of control and you need to help them regulate back and do their job, because their job is to protect you. We've all been one of these personas. So if you want your project manager, or if you want to manage your life, again, you know, it crosses to personal life, right? So understand the formula for success. And I did this, okay? A bad project manager, right, is what they do is they react, right? It's a bit chilly, but it's fine. Oh no, it's hell. And then, I've been here also in the beginning, right? But a good manager will anticipate, mitigate, and respond. And if you see your PM not doing any of those, by being one of the personas, right, then we need to go back to being a human being, empathize and understand. And then we've got to do the grown-up thing by anticipating, mitigating, and responding. So that's that. You can connect with me. Yeah. Thank you. So my link tree has got chapters from my book that you can download. So there's one statement of work that seems to be quite popular, and sales to delivery handover, which is also quite popular because it's got a checklist of questions that you need to ask to understand the customer better from the consulting side. So you know which customer, which stakeholder you've got to look after, you've got to handhold a bit more. So that's me. One more slide and after. Sorry. So you know I support Samaritan. So if you want to help me save lives, you donate £50. This link will take you directly to their site. I get no money, right? So I'm actually paying and buying for that book for you because we save lives. So if you want to help support me, thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
So all the strategies you provide are really helpful, but as a developer, where do you actually draw the line of your own boundaries? Because at the end of the day, you can't really self-sacrifice yourself, right?
100%. 100%. So like what I tell everyone, if you have a problem or anything in life, there is really only 3 things you can do. There's only 3 things you can do. You can suck it up. You can try to change your environment, or you can leave your environment. There are 3 things, right? You can, like a boyfriend, like a bad boyfriend, right? You can do one of those. Bad boss, one of those. Bad company, one of those. Sometimes leaving the company is not an option. And then, so it's either suck it up and just leave with a PM who's like really rubbish, or help manage them to make your life better, right? So I think it depends on the health of the market space. If the health is really good, you can leave and you can get another job. Sometimes you don't have that option. So you need to weigh it up and then look at your own boundaries and how to keep yourself safe while you're managing crazy person. Thank you. Yes?
This kind of adds to that. When I have managed project managers myself, it gets to a point where do you cut off helping them to help themselves? So I got my Jira tickets, they're happy with me, I'm good. And then they start to lean on you, and then they want you to help them further outside of what yours is. Like, how would you, where do you cut them off? Because I don't want to do their job fully. I just want to do it enough to get me by it.
Fair enough. So I would go back to the iron triangle and also to what you want to do. You know, so if I was like much earlier in my career, I would help my boss a lot because I was learning. Right? And then later on, you're thinking, I'm doing your job for you. But again, it depends on what my situation is like and whether I mind or not. If I don't mind, then I need to be able to say no and draw my own boundaries. And then just live with crazy person and then do lots of meditation and tune them out. Right? So again, it's down to 3 things that you can do. Any more questions? Yes?
So every one of your personalities, you talked about using empathy to manage that. Empathy is something that some people have more naturally than others. Do you have tips or suggestions on like how can a person go and build empathy as a skill?
There's a lot. So okay, this is a side thing. I follow psychopaths, right? So I watch a lot of movies and shows with psychopaths. So they're actually people who are born without empathy. They don't feel emotionally. So I read a lot of blogs by people, and what they say is they can learn it. They look at everyone else, and so this one person that I follow, so she says that when someone dies, there are acceptable behaviors and non-acceptable behaviors, and just understanding why someone says that this is not what you're supposed to do. So it's stepping into someone else's shoes and trying to see it from their point of view. So Brené Brown has a really good clip on what empathy is. It's perspective taking. You're understanding, you can see from their worldview. There are 3 more, I can't remember now. I'll find a clip. But yes, you can learn. Empathy is a skill that you can learn.
But isn't it the same thing as difference between empathy and sympathy? I've seen majority, or you've showed here, is more of sympathy that people think of than empathy. They're not working on that they need to work on.
Yes, so there is a difference between sympathy and empathy. So I always say this, because I also train New Samaritans, by the way, and helping them to be able to pick up the phones and listen to people. Imagine someone's in a hole, okay? So if you say, hello person in there, I'm really sorry you're in the hole, that is sympathy, okay? And the follow on is, you're in a hole, I don't like you being in the hole because it makes me uncomfortable. Please can you cheer up, get out, move on, right? That's sympathy. Empathy is different. Empathy is saying, oh, you're in a hole, let me get down there. Right? And I'll say, it's really dark where you are. Can you just tell me a bit more about how you're feeling? That's empathy. And it's different when you're going through something tough. You can tell when someone is giving you sympathy or empathy. And you really want the second one, not the first one.
Good question. There's something to add. It's just something that I learned over the course of therapy. So I go to therapy, and basically, like when you're looking or when you're getting into argument, let's say with a person, or let's say you got into traffic and one person's driving crazy and trying to race with you or something. First of all, it's their problem, right? That it's that anger or whatever the emotion that is coming from them. And that is something that's based on the unmet needs from their childhood. So whenever a person behaves a certain way, it's not really them, but it's really what that as a child that they face in certain situation, maybe trauma, maybe even this when you were saying like what they need, like this type of managers, what they need to be liked or to be, validated, and all of that, it goes back to the childhood, so it's all rooted in childhood. So maybe one of the ways how you can actually, back to your point of how you can increase your empathy is when you look at a person and she's behaving all the way, okay, so I'm seeing you like literally like a child, like I'm seeing you like a 5-year-old, and yeah, that's how you can, I don't know if that makes sense, that's how you can.
It does. Let me just add to that, right? You can do that, and it's very helpful, but you want to not cross to, what's the word I'm looking for? Judgment, right? You want to stay in empathy and compassion and think, all right, you're behaving like a child. Oh, I'll treat you like a child then, you little boy. That one, you're crossing into judgment, whereas you can do the other thing without going there. Sorry, Jasmine.
So it's funny because I was actually thinking the same thing, because it gets to the point where you're like, who hurt you? Like, you don't say it,
Yeah.
You don't say it, it's professional. But in another...
Take yesterday.
Who hurt you? What needs do you have? Go
You're a
with the
small
name.
child, aren't you?
But no, so I was thinking of so are there any subtle resources out there or podcasts that you have watched that maybe if you have a project manager, because like you said, it's like different times in our lives we have different reactions and different responses and different needs. And are there any podcasts or blogs you've come across that kind of gently kind of make you realize, oh crap, I'm that person, but without it being in your face?
Wow. I can't think of any that's like tactful, but the if you are into this thing, you need to follow Brene Brown and a book, Atlas of the Heart. She talks about all the different emotions and everything and how to be a really strong, sturdy leader. And I think every leader should actually consume.
Would you encourage them to do a Myers-Briggs and then use that in a way to kind of like
No.
tell them? No, okay. Just be...
No, sorry, Myers-Briggs is not something that is proven to be, it's fun, but it's not scientific.
No, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.